I'm going to get different kinds of perspectives on what is likely to happen in the Court for Arbitration of Sports. That's what everyone's tracking at this moment. With me in the studio, my colleague Nikhil Naz. He's just come back after spending a month in Paris tracking the Olympics for us, so understands every single nuance of what's at play here. Also with us is Gopal Jain, senior advocate in the Supreme Court. Saurabh Mishra is an advocate in the Supreme Court as well. And Ashwin Nachappa joins us, well-known former Indian athlete. Nikhil Naz, I want to start with you. Give our viewers first a sense of how the proceedings in the Court of Arbitration of Sports really went. What were the arguments made by the lawyers on behalf of Vinesh? Was there a counter? Who presented the counter? And how did the arguments made before the judges really go?
Well, it's very interesting because if you look at the rule book, and this is what the UWW, the United World Wrestling Federation, is arguing over, that they followed the rules to the T. So there is no ambiguity there. They haven't twisted the rule in anybody's favor, and there is enough precedent in the previous Olympic Games where wrestlers have been disqualified even for, we were talking about 100 grams, even when they were weighing about 50 grams. So they are on a strong footing, or at least started off on a wrong footing, on a strong footing. Why is it that over the 3 hours of hearing has the verdict been pushed to about 3 days now? 3 extensions we've already had. That's not happened with the Court of Arbitration for Sports. Usually 24 hours is all they take to come in with the interim order. Of course, the detailed order takes time to come. Why is it? And what we're picking up, there are 3 basic areas that the Indian side in the argument are highlighting. One, of course, pertains to the more human angle. What they're arguing is that, listen, it's a fundamental right. She needed to, look after her recovery. Otherwise, she could have had certain issues with her body that could have been permanent. So if you make a wrestler fight for 3 bouts a day, she needs to load in those carbs, the salts, and so on and so forth. And you can't deny any human is fundamental right. That's one. The other angle they're taking, that, listen, you, for your other international competition, do allow a bit of leeway, and you should do that with the female wrestlers. You cannot have the same rules for male wrestlers and female wrestlers. On certain days of the month, you allow them those few extra grams, and you should look into it, and as a body you should. But I think the most interesting bit that they've picked up is in terms of the rules, and there is a lacuna there in the rules which they're trying to look at, is the fact that, as you know, wrestling is the only sport where the bronze medal is not decided by the 2 losing semi-finalists. You have to look at the chain, and the wrestler that reaches the final, the chain that he's beaten, they compete to be the 3rd best in the round. Now, what the Indian side argued, that in case of Venetia's weight management or weight category, from her side, you have had the wrestlers that she beat compete for the bronze medal. So if in your books she's disqualified, then she's not a finalist. And then the finalist who replaces her, the Cuban wrestler in Lopez, all the wrestlers she beat should ideally be then competing for the bronze medal match. However, the bronze medal match, which is the next day and not the same day, those 3 bouts that happened, were contested by the wrestlers that Vinesh had beaten. So in your eyes, they're putting the onus back onto UWW, saying in your eyes, she's still a finalist. And if she is a finalist, then give her the silver that she deserves. So that's the other argument that they are looking at. However, there are certain bylaws in the UWW manual which do specify that in case of a disqualification, they'll still consider the wrestlers that lost to the finalists. But they're arguing that if the idea is to give it to the 3rd best wrestler, then he or she should come from the side which has made the final. So there is a lacuna there is a loophole there that they are trying to highlight, and which is probably the reason that it's taken them, about 3 days to deliberate on the matter and then try and come to a conclusion. I'm not saying that it's done and dusted, it's in favor of Vinesh Phogat. I think still I would give the edge to the United World Wrestling as to, things still being in their favor. However, it's still opened up a gate, or opened up
really
an opportunity.
Like the final that never was. We don't know what will happen, and we just need to have our fingers crossed and wait. I want to go across to Gopal Jain. Mr. Jain, your sense, based on what you've heard, on how the Court of Arbitration of Sports is likely to rule in this matter?
Well, I think it'll be a call between reading the rules and applying it strictly, and looking at the context, the situation, the peculiar facts of the case, and coming up with a verdict which will do justice to the sport and in line with the spirit, because fair play always lies at the heart of sportsmanship and in sports. So if you look at the overall context and the facts which have just been stated, then obviously there's a case and room for doing justice to Vinesh. And 2, in any sport, especially when it's at the level of the Olympics, to just have a medal on a no contest and not give the second person who was in the fray, in the final, any medal at all, would look at some kind of sports injustice. So I hope they take a more holistic view of the matter.
But how does the Court for Arbitration of Sports typically rule? Because all courts have precedents, they have past judgments which by and large tend to give sharp lawyers like yourself a sense of what's likely to happen.
I think that most of the past verdicts, I think, broadly go on a strict interpretation and application of the rules. But I think there's always flexibility built in, because in law, the context and the facts make a difference, and facts are different in every case. So that's why you go for adjudication. Otherwise, anyone can read the rule and take a decision one way or the other. So adjudication always has this element of marrying the facts onto the applicable regime or the rules. So I hope this holistic perspective is taken. And also sometimes you apply the principle of proportionality. You look at the situation, say what would be a proportionately correct remedy or resolution, and perhaps that should be giving the silver medal to her.
Ashwini Nachappa, you've been a fine athlete yourself. You know, any athlete's heart would really go out to Vinesh Phogat. But the fact also is that rules are rules. And when she signed up, she knew that she had to make the weight cut. And if she didn't, she would be disqualified. A lot of athletes have just been very cold and said, you know, that's the harsh reality. If you're even 10 grams overweight, you're disqualified. What's your sense of how this is shaping up and what are you expecting?
That's absolutely true, Rahul. The rule applies not just for Vinesh, but for the entire, batch of contenders who played. But what is striking in this case for me is that she has, not cheated. She has won all the 3 bouts convincingly. And as a woman, I think body types are different. You have, different ways of the amount that you will lose or gain depends on the individual also. For me, it is not so much whether she'll get the silver medal or not. But I think what her journey has proved is she is beyond that silver medal, the way she has fought. She's, it's more than gold. And for me, whether she wins it or not, she's a true hero. I think it's great if she gets it. But the rule, as he rightly put it, if there is going to be a human element to it, it's not happened in the past. And if they really look at those angles, that she's played well, the third argument that was put across by Nikhil, that she's beaten all of them, and if they really are considerate, it's taken 3 days. It's never happened in the past. As he rightly said, in 24 hours they do it. So they're deliberating it. And I think, whatever the outcome may be, Vinesh comes home as a victor.
No, sure. Oh, that she does. The fact that she's a star for all of us, undisputedly India's #1 Olympic star. I mean, no disrespect to Neeraj or to Manu Bhaker, but she really has won more hearts than anyone else could have, even though she didn't wrestle in the final. Now, Saurabh Mishra, the counter argument is that if the Court for the Arbitration of Sports rules in Vinesh's favor, then it sets a precedence. We're making this big emotional plea that she was 100 grams overweight. What if an athlete next time round is 150 grams overweight? What if somebody's 180 grams overweight? What if somebody's 195 grams overweight? Like, where do you draw the line? Last time, the wrestler who finally, who beat Aman Shehrawat went on to win the gold was overweight by only 50 grams and he was disqualified. He wasn't allowed to participate. So 5 grams, 10 grams, 50 grams, 100 grams, 150 grams, the moment you get into areas of grey, you never know how many grams are too many.
That's rightly said, Rahul. The fact is that rule is rule and law is governed by the rules. So the retrospective application of the rule in this case is what is UWD is going to argue or must have argued in this case, that we cannot retrospectively apply it. And also, once you have already said that there is example of a Japanese wrestler who was overweight by 50 grams in Tokyo Olympics. So there's already a precedent in favor of the UWW. So it's going to be a difficult challenge for the Vinesh to successfully argue this case and win the joint silver medal.
Nikhil, You know, this question's been asked and answered 100 times, but from what additional information we've been able to gather between when you left Paris and now, what do we know about why she couldn't lose that last 100 grams? I mean, we saw Aman Sehrawat lost some 4+ kilos between his bout and the next day to be able to ensure that he was, you know, off the right weight category.
You know, different cases, and just to let our viewers know, and that's because Vinesh, her natural weight being 57, 58, you lose a few kilos and then fight in 53. 53 would have been the ideal weight for her to fight in. She had previously fought in the 50 kilogram category, but that was when she was much younger. As you age, your natural weight tends to go up, which is why 50 for her, for many people, was a bridge too far. But she was attempting it nonetheless. It was a risk, but she was taking it. In Aman's case, he was just 3-4 kilos up his natural weight category, so it's easier to cut down that weight. But once you reach that territory of 4-5 kilos, it's the kgs beyond that are very tough to cut it down. I'm just trying to put it into perspective. I was speaking to a few wrestling experts, and look at how fate intervened here. You know, we all celebrated her beating Sasaki, the #1 wrestler, and you know, she played an outstanding match, tactical match, won it. But that could have been counterproductive for her going forward. And I'll try and explain that. Remember, if she had not won that bout, she only plays that one bout. She only needs to load up about 1 kilo more after that bout to replenish the energy that she's lost. She comes back the next day to participate in the repechage because everyone expects Sasaki to be playing the final, in which case second day she does fight those 3 bouts. And even if she loads up a bit more and reaches 53, 54, those kilos are then not counted the next day. The fact that she won her first bout, and she deserved it, she played really well. The thing is, she had to fight 2 more bouts the same day, which means she needed plenty more energy going forward for her 3 bouts, which is what ended up her gaining 2.7 kilos, which proved very, very tough for her to lose in the end. Now, many people were asking, why isn't it she didn't prepare for it? That's because previous to this, she fought a few qualification rounds and qualified in the 50 kilogram categories. But on those occasions, she's only fighting the one day. It's a single day competition. So she weighs in, just like here in the Olympics, she's below 50, and then she can fight those 3 or 4 bouts in a day. And even if she ends up adding about 3-4 kilos, that's okay. There's no next day to the competition. She comes into the Olympics for the first time in the last few years, fighting in the 50 kilogram category, more importantly over a 2-day period, which she hadn't been used to. And that's why I say, I mean, you know, if she hadn't won her first round, she definitely would have been playing the bronze and would have been the weighing in. There's no reason for her to lose that on the basis of that. But I'm looking at this entire scenario in hindsight, having spoken to a few professional
It really is
wrestlers.
an Olympian tragedy. Now we want to see if there'll be an Olympian twist right at the end, where it seems as if it's all lost and then she gets it all back. I'm sure some Bollywood filmmaker has got this down and wants to make what will be an epic film on this. I mean, if it's nicely made, of course. From sporting legends to many celebrities, the demand is loud and it's clear. Give Vinesh silver. Wrestler and Olympian Jordan Burroughs was the first to say that Vinesh deserves a medal. He also called for a change in the weigh-in rules. Here's how the chorus for a medal for Vinesh is getting louder.
Make or break moment for Vinesh Phogat. As the fate of a silver medal hangs in the balance, the Indian wrestler stands on the brink of a momentous decision that could rewrite her Olympic story. Vinesh was disqualified on 7th August after being found 100 grams overweight for a 50 kg final against USA's Sarah Hildebrand. As the wait for a decision on her appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport continues, sport is pouring in from around the world for Vinesh. Master Blaster, legendary cricketer Sachin Tendulkar has put his weight behind the wrestler, saying she definitely deserves silver. Star javelin thrower Neeraj Chopra has backed Vinesh.
मेडल नहीं मिलेगा तो एक वो हमको पता है कि जो सिचुएशन जो हुई अगर वो नहीं होती तो मेडल तो वैसे ही पक्का था। जब तक मेडल नहीं होता गले में वो एक चीज़ रह ही जाती है। लोग थोड़े दिन तक याद करते हैं, बोलेंगे कि यू आर आवर चैम्पियन, हमारे लिए आप चैम्पियन हो। लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि जब तक वो मोमेंट ना हो, हम पोडियम पे ना हो, तो वो बहुत जल्दी भूल भी जाते हैं।
Former Indian captain Saurav Ganguly too extended his support to the wrestler.
I'm sure when she went to the finals, she must have qualified properly. So when you go to the finals, it's either gold or silver. If she's disqualified rightfully or wrongfully, I don't know. then she deserves the silver at least.
Beijing Olympics gold medalist Abhinav Bindra has called Vinesh Phogat a fighter.
Well, we're all conditioned to hope, so I'm being hopeful and remain positive, but I'm not a legal expert. I don't know where it's headed.
Vinesh has also got widespread support from several acclaimed international sportsmen like American wrestler Jordan Burroughs and Japan's Rei Hogichi. Vinesh's family is hoping that the wrestler's prayer will be answered.
देखिए कल भी बैठे रहे परसों बैठे रहे सर्व फैसला लिया हम आज बैठे हैं कल भी सारी रात बैठे रहे और हम आज भी आस उम्मीद है जो हमारे पक्ष में फैसला आएगा मुझे पूरा विश्वास है और आज भी हम जब तक जो है बार इंतजार करें उस फैसले का और नहीं आए तो जब हम 1 बजे जाओ 2 बजे जाओ लेकिन फिर बाद में जो सोएंगे.
As India awaits verdict on Vinesh's appeal against disqualification, the Court of Arbitration for Sport is expected to announce its decision today. Bureau Report, India Today.
You know, we heard Gopal Jain argue that this would be the right thing to do, that there is emotion, sentiment, associated with how Vinesh was denied. The counter-argument to that, Mr. Jain, is that, rules are rules. When you sign up for a competition like the Olympics, you know very clearly that you need to make the weight cut, and if you don't, you get disqualified. The problem with the argument made by you earlier was that it could set a precedent. 100 grams, 200 grams, 500 grams, somebody will say I was 490, not 500, the bar should be 500, somebody will say the bar should be 200, somebody will say the bar should be 50. So where do you draw the line?
Yes, so I have a twofold response to what you said. We also have a principle in law called substantial compliance. So in this case, she was definitely substantially compliant. And two, maybe this is an occasion for the authorities to relook and provide a little range of flexibility. So you don't have discretion, but at least you provide, whether it's 50 or 100, some number, because it can happen in a situation, as we saw, for reasons beyond anybody's human control. That would bring in the element of fairness and flexibility, which is important, because application of a rule should not result in an unjust result. That's the whole purpose of having an adjudication, that they always balance different things and then take a decision. So that's the plea that,
so I'm told
that
it's
I'm
a
making.
retired judge who presides over these proceedings, Nikhil?
That's right. There's an arbitrator that is appointed by the Court of Arbitration for Courts, and they are the ones that, it's only a single judge bench that looks into this entire matter. And there are a few cases that have already happened, and they have been ruling during the Olympics. There's one of Jordan Chiles, the US gymnast. And if you look at that case, that is quite contrary to what we are looking at. Like Mr. Jain mentions, that you should look at ensuring that the correct result is taken rather than go by the rule book, which is again an opinion. But if you look at that Jordan Chiles example,
so let's tell our viewers about it. In a cruel turn of events, American gymnast Jordan Chiles has been stripped of her Olympic medal. The Court for Arbitration of Sports, the same court that's going to rule in Vinesh's case any time from now, has ruled that her medal be given to Romania, as a crucial rule was broken when additional points were awarded to Chiles, as a result of which she jumped to 3rd place. The athlete, who was over the moon after her Olympian success, is now taking time off social media to recover from this blow. Here's the full story.
An Olympic medal snatched away from one athlete and given to another. US gymnast Jordan Chiles' delight of being an Olympic medalist was rather short-lived. This after the Court of Arbitration for Sport annulled an on-floor appeal by Chiles' coach that had vaulted the gymnast to 3rd place. The bronze medal was then awarded to Romania's Ana Barbuso, but the US officials are now planning to challenge the ruling that resulted in Chiles losing her medal. While overturning the decision, the CAS said that the appeal made by the American gymnast coach had come 4 seconds outside the 1-minute window allowed by the FIG. Disappointed by the turn of events, Chiles took to X and said that she's removing herself from social media platforms to take care of her mental health. It remains to be seen if there'll be another reversal in this saga. But for now, the medal Jordan Chiles thought was hers has gone to Romania. Sports Bureau, India Today.
No, so here's the thing, they followed the rule to the T, Nikhil. It's quite unfortunate you get a medal and it gets taken away, but that's how the dice rolled in this case.
Exactly. So if you look at this case carefully, though it is quite different to what Vinesh is fighting for, but what this tells you is that in terms of the fair spirit, if you were just going to uphold the spirit of the sport, you should have allowed the American gymnast to keep that medal, simply because when the judges were asked to review it, they gave her that extra point, and so she moves from number 5th to number 3rd position and gets the bronze. So in terms of, rewarding sporting excellence, they should be giving the medal to the American gymnast. But they took it away on a technicality, on a rule which said, no, the appeal came 4 seconds late. So you're only allowed 1 minute to appeal. They appealed in 1 minute 4 seconds. So what did the Court of Arbitration for Sport do? They upheld the rule first and then looked at whether it is being applied in fair spirit or whether justice has been done in terms of sporting excellence.
If I look at this case, Gopal Jain, it kind of breaks my heart, because if for 4 seconds they can revoke this athlete's bronze medal, which he'd already been given, and given it to a Romanian gymnast, then 100 grams could just as well be 100 kilograms, really. I mean, for them,
no, I look at it differently, and there's a heartening thing here. This is the case of CAS overturning a decision, so from winning to stripping, and in Vinesh's case, it would be from denial to restoration. So at least they have overturned a decision. Hopefully, if they apply the same principle, we may see an overturn.
No, but they overturned they overturned an order because it was violative of the rules.
Yeah.
So you're 100 grams overweight, and that's the rule.
No, I agree. I'm only saying that they intervened and overturned if the circumstances and the facts made out by the legal team appeal to the arbitrators appointed by CAS, who's going to rule on it. At least it's heartening to note that they do intervene and reverse and overturn. So I'm only hoping, like you said, a billion prayers, every petition, last para is a prayer. So hopefully this prayer gets exceeded to in the larger context of things and not on a narrow application of a rule, hard and fast.
Ashwini Nachappa, do you think an athlete like Vinesh Phogat can ever recover from something like this fully? I mean, of course, at this moment she's broken, crestfallen. She's announced that this is the end of her wrestling fatigue. I mean, if you were trying to counsel her at this time and there's so much in the mind, what would you be telling Ashwini?
I mean, there's really, no words can really take away that mental depression that one goes through at this particular moment. For me, I think at least her medal is not being stripped off, like in the case of the American gymnast. That is even worse. Here we got to know just prior to the event. So I think Vinesh has gone through enough. She's very, very strong. But we just need to give her time and support, even when she comes back, whatever the ruling is, because she needs to get back her mental stability. And she would, it goes back to a long journey of turbulent journey that she has had in the last 18 months. It's a lot to take for a young, athlete and compete at the highest level and compete so well, convincingly win all those bouts. So it's going to take a while for her to, get through it. We can all say you should be strong. We are all there with you, but she really needs some time for herself.
I just want to spend some time thinking about what's happening right now. It is close to 5 p.m. in Paris. The court shuts at 6, which means that whatever order has to be delivered, the judges already delivered because they go home at 6, right? And the press conference that's been announced, Nikhil Naz, by the Indian Olympic Association, Hari Salve, is at 9:30, which is 6 p.m. in Paris, which means the courts have shut. Now, I just find it very difficult to believe that this isn't already known. It's not known to us, that's correct. But it's not as if he'll wait till 6 p.m. Paris time so that we can do this press conference through the IOA. I mean, what's at play?
Well, I'm as surprised as you are, Rahul, because I was there where the tribunal where they are going to be hearing the case. I also find it hard to believe that the 9:30 p.m. deadline was for today. The earlier deadline as well, we got to know exactly at 9:30 p.m. that we've extended it for another 24 hours. I'm sure that was a decision that wasn't made at the 11th hour, was done earlier, but we got to know from the IOA. I wouldn't be surprised that the decision is already known to the powers that be.
The IOA knows because they've announced that they'll do a press conference at 9:30. You all will be there in that press conference.
It's conjecture, but possible. They know Harish Salve is going to be there.
In the press conference.
And also, yes, and also the president of the Indian Olympic Association and athlete of repute herself in PT Usha. So they're going to be there at 9:30. But I did have a word with people in the IOA. I asked them that you already announced the press conference, and what if the result doesn't come today? And so I was told, and this is about 4-5 hours ago, I was told that in that case we'll of course postpone it to the day that it's going to be announced. But 9:30 we know because it's the cutoff by which time we will know the result, and we can only have the press conference.
I sent one of the very senior lawyers involved in this case a message saying we'd like to speak to you if this verdict goes in India's favor, and he wrote back saying, okay, sure. Now, I mean, if he didn't know something, would he have written back saying, okay, sure? Because no lawyer likes to come out, as Gopal Jain will agree, and speak if he's lost the case. If a high-profile lawyer is very quickly, instantaneously saying, okay, sure, let's do it once the verdict comes out, I would suppose that would mean, give us some, we've discussed Vinesh's mental psyche. Well, would you accept that? If high-profile lawyers are saying, yeah, sure, let's talk after the verdict, it's because they think they're winning.
Silence is golden, sometimes.
In this case, silver.
In this case,
silver, exactly.
Okay, so we don't know what's happening, frankly. I mean, the fact is, in an hour, they're supposed to let us know, and they're really turning this into one big climax. It could be anticlimactic in the end, or maybe there is some. What a story this is really turned out to be, and every single one of us really thinks that Vinesh is a champion. I mean, whether she gets silver or she doesn't, for all of India, she is a champion.